celebration this month. In a moment, we'll hear from some community leaders, followed by a raising of the Progress Pride flag, and then everyone will be invited out back behind the building for our block party with vendors, music, entertainment, food. So we're really excited to be here with all of you today. And to begin things, we'll be hearing from the Honorable Mayor Charlie Sisitsky.
Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Can't believe this is June 1st and some people wearing parkas. Unbelievable. But anyway, I want to welcome you all to the 7th annual Pride flag raising ceremony here in the city of Framingham. Thank you for being here today as we come together in unity and celebration. Throughout the month of June, the Pride flag will fly proudly in front of this memorial building and in our public libraries, symbols of inclusion and affirmation for all members of the LGBTQIA+ community. The only exception will be on Juneteenth, the day we pause to reflect on a different but equally vital struggle for equity and justice in the nation's history. It's important that this flag is raised here. It's more than a flag. It is a visible sign that in the city of Framingham, you are seen, you are heard, and you are valued. Every resident, regardless of their gender identity or sexual orientation, deserves to feel that they belong in our community. This year, we are especially proud to partner with Out Metro West for a joyful block party celebration following today's ceremony. This event is a true community collaboration between the City of Framingham, Out Metro West, the Framingham Public Library, Framingham Public Schools, and the Framingham 325th Celebration Committee. Together, we're creating spaces where everyone can celebrate who they are and who they love. June is LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, and yes, every one of these letters matters. It's important to say them all. Each represents a part of our community with its own history, struggles, and triumphs. The City of Framingham recognizes and honors every letter of the Pride alphabet and every person it represents. Thank you again for joining us today, for standing with your neighbors, and for helping to build a city where love and equality are not just ideals, but everyday values we strive to live by. Happy Pride, Framingham. And before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to give a shout out to all our town employees and volunteers that have done so much hard work to make this day such a great celebration for our city. So thank you all for that. And now I would like to introduce Representative Jack Patrick Lewis, who is the longest-serving LGBTQIA+ elected official in this city of Framingham.
Happy Pride! We're not going to scare the trolls back into their caves with that energy. Happy Pride! We have a couple great speakers after me and some students, so I invite folks to come a little closer, especially if you can't hear us very well. Rest up because we're going to have a crazy party behind City Hall here in just a couple minutes. It is great to be with all of you and to be in Framingham for this Pride celebration, which has become an annual tradition that I know so many of us look forward to. 15 years ago, my now husband and I moved to Framingham, moved to the Metro West area, and bought our house in Framingham. Coming to Massachusetts, wanting to go to a place where we knew we could finally get married, shout out to my husband, and start our family. For us, it was arriving at the end of that rainbow. It was the end of the yellow brick road where we could finally be the couple and the family we wanted to be. And then I started my job at the Unitarian Universalist Society of Wellesley Hills. And everything was going great until a couple parents called. Their sons had just come out as gay. These parents were very, very supportive, but knew that even in Massachusetts, things weren't all rainbows and unicorns all the time. And so they held my feet to the fire until I agreed, while working with several of you here, to launch a program that became Out Metro West. And there are fewer things, I think, shy of meeting my husband, getting married, and adopting our kids. Founding Out Metro West with some of you is right up there with me as one of those highlights of my life that I'll always take with me, because it was that interaction with the kids that reminded me of all the work that still had to happen here in Massachusetts. It was those conversations that sparked my first run for elected office, the first bills I filed and passed in the legislature, sparked by those conversations. And now I don't talk about it as often because I want you to think I'm always right here in Framingham, because I almost always are, but the international work I'm doing on the steering committee of local equality is taking the important work we've done in Massachusetts and taking it to Europe and beyond. We in Massachusetts have a lot to celebrate, but the reality is right here, even in Massachusetts, we have our work still cut out for us. In the last 4.5 months, we're simply the opening scene of a dystopian Hulu series. I would simply say this is a great place to end. Everyone needs to stay working, keep the joy, and keep celebrating. But we know that's not the reality. What we're facing in DC and across the country is a deliberate and well-orchestrated campaign. A campaign with the goal of dismantling diversity, legalizing the bullying of our children, cutting suicide prevention hotlines, slashing public health programs, and eliminating HIV prevention efforts around the globe. This isn't hyperbole. Their intentions are crystal clear. They want to force all of us back in the closet. They want to make it hard for our allies. They want to leave our allies afraid to defend us. They want to strip our teens of their rights and the supports we have. And they simply want to erase those that heartless so-called leaders have deemed undesirable. They want to remove us from books, from classrooms, from faith communities, from halls of government, and from daily life, until we cease to exist. They're not shy about this. But if these bullies had spent more time reading books instead of all of the effort in bullying them, they would know this about LGBTQ plus people. We have been here forever. In every culture, in every era of human history, in every corner of the world, and we will never, ever change. We're not going back in the closet, we're not going into hiding, and none of us here or anywhere in the country or the world have the luxury of being silent. It wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of human history that it was trans people and gender non-binary folks, a lot of our LGBTQ plus siblings of color, who literally picked up the first bricks at Stonewall, who put their bodies and their lives on the line to draw a line and say they're not going to take it anymore. Unfortunately, over the last 50 years, our movement, and I'm going to intentionally say gay rights movement here, has largely not prioritized them in our efforts. And now, we're faced with an administration that seeks political gain by revoking, even further revoking, their access to healthcare, employment, and even prisons in the community. But this is not time to retreat in fear, to compromise with hatred, or to sacrifice anyone in our community in a futile attempt to save ourselves. We all need to lean on each other because we are all in this together. We have a lot to celebrate, as I said. Massachusetts led the way in marriage equality, a ripple that went across the country and went globally. But any of us who are in same-sex relationships and have kids know that we are just one Supreme Court case away from needing to grab that special file of documents, the just-in-case file, when we leave state lines, unknown what would happen if somebody questioned our family. Because we know that marriage equality was never just about taxes. It was always about family, about dismantling archaic understandings of gender roles, and defining love on our own terms. Freedom to choose, as those of us who have chosen to get married and those of us who have chosen not to, and those who chose to get married and realized it wasn't for them, that choice is liberation in itself. So we're going to hear from some of our community's young people, and we are doing a remarkable job here in Framingham Public Schools. But the reality is our kids have only one childhood, and we have a moral obligation to do everything in our power to make sure that they not only survive adolescence, but that they thrive. This means seeing themselves in their books, in their teachers. It means making sure that they can play sports without any obstacles. It means we need to make sure that we pass laws that prevent puritanical norms or the misplaced discomfort or obsession of a vocal minority from blocking them from accessing necessary resources. It's true, I wish my kids and your kids had a different childhood. But it is so much more than just making sure that things are better today. It's making sure that they're liberated, and by extension that we are liberated. This morning I kicked things off in Boston for their fundraiser for HIV prevention. And it was a reminder that we also stand at this precipice of great possibility. Something none of us could have imagined 10, 20, 30 years ago. But that with medical science, within not just our lifetimes, but within this decade, we can eliminate all HIV new cases. We can make sure nobody dies from HIV complications, and we can truly eliminate stigma. This isn't going to be easy. This is going to require sustained effort. This is going to require us to make what can be on occasion difficult decisions. But we need to stand up to a federal administration who again has decided that some of us are expendable. And lives are already being lost across the world because of that. So I want you to join me, to join all of us, join your friends, join your family, join your coworkers, and fight back. Not giving up on each other. There are those people in our lives who are slowly learning. Don't give up on them. But also not allow the trolls to absorb any more oxygen than they already provide to themselves. Let's deprive them of the energy and the attention that they seek so that they can slink back into those caves of darkness that we would all love them to live back in. Because through it all, at the end of the day, we are here to celebrate, we're here to fight back, and we're here to talk more about gay joy and trans joy and queer joy, because that's not just the outcome that we all seek and we're working towards, but it's the very reason we even begin doing this work. Thank you so much.
If your vehicle is 2CC162, you need to move it, or the police are going to give you a $300 ticket.
Thank you to Mayor Sisitsky and Representative Lewis. Also, apologies, I realized I came up here earlier and I started talking without ever introducing my own self. I'm Mel Pache, my pronouns are they or she. I'm the Executive Director of Out Metro West, where we build communities where LGBTQ youth thrive. I'm glad to be here with you all and excited to introduce our next speaker, Isabella Petroni, who is the youngest serving LGBTQIA leader in Framingham.
Hello everyone! Again, happy Pride! Knowledge is power. Anyone who knows me knows I am a massive nerd. Always have been, always will be. It's probably the reason I was elected as a library trustee 4 years ago, becoming the first openly queer woman elected citywide. I also happen to be the youngest, if you couldn't tell. Being all of the above in today's day and age seems to be more dangerous than ever before. The institutions that I have grown up loving and have dedicated my life serving, from libraries to museums to art centers, are under attack by those who see a threat in what I said above. Knowledge is power. Knowledge that allows us to learn about about ourselves. Knowledge that makes us not feel alone. Knowledge that makes us not feel broken. Knowledge that lets us know that we have always existed. In addition to loving libraries, I have also always loved history, loved culture, loved folklore, and stories. No surprise, I grew up a Percy Jackson fan. I know some of the younger ones will get the reference. And those myths that those stories are based on also show us the truth that we have always existed. When we grew up, we heard the same fairy tales of the prince and the princess, of the adoring heterosexual couple falling in love, getting married, and living happily ever after. Even in the old anthologies of Bullfinch's mythology and elementary school lessons, that was how this mythology was always taught and cheated and taught. Until you dug a bit deeper and learned that those stories had been altered or hidden. In ancient Greece and Rome, what we think of today as bisexuality was the norm, and as such, their stories reflected it. Apollo fell in love with not only Daphne, but also Hyacinthus. Aphrodite was not also the goddess of love, but the queer poet Sappho's greatest muse. Achilles and Patroclus weren't really cousins, like the translation said, and Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar had whole comedy plays dedicated to the love affairs, of male and female. We can find that in history and mythology, if we just dig a bit deeper, we can find people like us dating back to ancient Sumer 5,000 years ago, with referenced intersex individuals being divinely blessed by the goddess Inanna in one of the earliest epics in human history. Our own country's history and existence might have been owed to a man named Baron Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben, credited as the father of the U.S. Army Quartermaster's Corps, and was widely considered today by historians to have had belle lovers both in Prussia and here in the United States. You could say that he is the predecessor to Don't Ask, Don't Tell back in the 18th century. This history, this knowledge, they are clearly afraid of it. Similar regimes tried to erase the queer identities of men like King Friedrich the Great of Prussia or Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. They tried to control both the contents and the availability of academic papers, books, and documentaries to brainwash these individuals to be able to use them to the benefit of their regime. Because that knowledge, that truth, that idea that queer people can be great leaders and philosophers and artists would invalidate their whole regime's philosophy. That is what they're trying to do here today. Now they're trying to do here now. Make us feel unnatural in our skin, make us feel less than human, make us feel isolated, make us feel ashamed and confused and defeated. And to do that, they want to try to erase that history, that knowledge, that power from us, just as like regimes like theirs did before. But they can never take away that knowledge from us if we fight to preserve and keep it. Because queer people have existed since the dawn of human civilization, preserved through folk tales and stories and mythology and history. Even if, like ancient history, it's buried to try to hide it away. But whether it's the picture of Dorian Gray, or the Well of Loneliness, or Orlando, or Twelfth Night, or The Little Mermaid, or Go Tell It on the Mountain, no matter the cost of expressing ourselves in art and the cost of preserving that expression as these artists faced, we must continue to prevail in our assertion of our rightful existence, just as the artists or historians or our queer elders and ancestors did before us. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from our keynote speaker, Caden Davis. Caden, who uses he, him pronouns, is a public health professional with over 6 years of experience at the intersection of direct service, advocacy, and systems change. The first in his family to go to college, Caden obtained his master's degree in community development and planning from Clark University, where he concentrated on health equity and community-driven policy. He began his career at AIDS Project Worcester, providing case management and harm reduction services to individuals living with and affected by HIV. He then worked on statewide HIV medication access through PrEP Drug Assistance Program, supporting efforts to reduce barriers to HIV prevention services. Currently, Caden serves as the project coordinator for the Metro West Care Connection, where he works to improve access to care across the region. His recent work has centered on housing advocacy, and he chairs the Metro West Housing Coalition, leading collaborative efforts to address housing insecurity and promote stable, affordable housing solutions. In addition to his work in public health, Caden is also running as the first openly trans man candidate for Worcester City Council at Large. In this, he is continuing his commitment to representation, equity, and structural change in local government.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Perfect. Good afternoon everyone. Thank you to all who has made today possible. The Framingham Pride Committee, the City of Framingham, my fellow speakers, and every single person that's here today. At a time when attacks are coming at us from all directions, it is more essential than ever that we prioritize spaces like this. Being here together, celebrating the beautiful diversity of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community is a powerful act of resistance. And I'm so proud to be a part of a community that continues to find joy and connection, even as others try tirelessly to dull our shine. At the same time, amidst the celebration and pride, it is impossible to ignore the heaviness of the moment that we're living in. Attacks on queer and trans people are not new, but the level of coordination, calculation, and cruelty from leaders who are supposed to protect us is terrifying. I experienced this cruelty firsthand when I recently applied for a corrected passport. Although I submitted my application before federal policy changes took place, my application wasn't processed in time. Not only did I receive an incorrect passport, but my correct birth certificate and court order for my legal name change were returned to me, destroyed, torn in half, and charred. The fear, anxiety, and disempowerment that I felt in that moment is difficult to put into words, and this is just one example of what so many in our community are facing. Since January, we've seen trans people systematically erased from federal systems and denied accurate identification. We've watched gender-affirming care come under relentless attack, especially for youth and for people of all ages who rely on Medicare and Medicaid. We've seen targeted, violent rhetoric towards trans femmes and trans women, while trans masculine people, trans men, and non-binary individuals are increasingly erased in the process. We witnessed cuts to HIV services, harm reduction programs, and disability benefits, all of which are vital to public health, survival, and dignity. We know the data. Systemic inequities make queer and trans people more vulnerable to homelessness, substance use, poverty, incarceration, and unemployment. These realities hit even harder for BIPOC trans people who face compounded barriers due to racism and xenophobia. Yet the very programs that are meant to serve and protect us are constantly on the chopping block. Our BIPOC and immigrant communities are afraid to go outside, to send their children to school, and to even access essential services such as medical care and food. People are being torn from our neighborhoods without due process, and the civil rights that were promised, for too many of us, are existing only on paper. It's hard not to feel lost, and it's hard not to feel hopeless, but that's exactly the goal, to make us feel so broken down, so afraid, that we stop showing up, that we stop fighting back. So as hard as it is, we must do the opposite. We must keep showing up, we must keep loving one another through the hardest of times. We must keep reminding these systems of oppression that we are not going anywhere. During my work in the HIV advocacy sphere, I encountered a quote that I keep finding myself coming back to these days. Activist Dan Savage said, "During the darkest of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning, we protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. The dance kept us in the fight because it was the dance we were fighting for. It didn't look like we were going to win then, and we did. It doesn't feel like we're going to win now, but we could. Keep fighting, keep dancing." Our ancestors fought so that we can continue fighting and dancing. So find your people, get connected to mutual aid groups and causes that matter to you. Support local candidates who share your values, and above all else, remember to not stop dancing, because our joy is revolutionary. So this Pride, let us celebrate, but let us also recommit to the work of building a world where all of us, in our messy, full, brilliant identities, are safe, valued, and free, and a world where we are all liberated. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you, Hayden. I'm next excited to bring up a group of speakers, our students from Framingham High School. First, we'll hear from Rain DeBrush from the Framingham High School class of 2026.
Hello, my name is Rain. I'm a junior at Framingham High School, and I'm an officer for the GSA for the next school year. I use he, they pronouns, and I am honored to be speaking with you today. When I think about pride, I think about knowing who I am and where I can be myself freely. The feeling of being seen, accepted, and loved exactly as you are is the most important aspect of pride for me. For a lot of us in the LGBTQ+ community, this feeling isn't always one that comes naturally. But when it does come, it is so powerful and strong. This past summer, I had the chance to return to my summer camp for the 6th year in a row, and this has helped me experience my true identity in the way I want to express myself. It was my first year of being a counselor in training, and I finally had a new role. I had to help the campers feel like they belonged and like they had people there that supported them. But this is difficult to do when you feel like you don't belong in your own body and you don't know who you are. And I was lucky enough to have some staff members who were willing to help me through this experience. And they were not only willing to do this because they had known what I was going through, but they were also willing to change and make the change that was needed. 3 of these staff members, Holmes, Splash, and Xylo, had known me forever, ever since I started going there. They knew I always wanted to be the best, but also knew I was willing to put others before myself. On my second day at camp, I was sitting on the dock next to Splash, and she just simply asked, "How was my year?" Without meaning to, I dove into an extremely deep description of my experiences coming out as a trans man. I had wrestled with the decision to go by my legal name at my horseback riding farm, where I am competing in riding still, and I had decided it was for my safety. Not my legal safety or my safety in identifying myself, but my physical safety, as if I got hurt, who would know what to say? But that was what I had convinced myself. In reality, I was afraid of losing people who I cared about and who mattered to me. That's what Splash helped me realize, and she encouraged me to start talking to Holmes, who knew what I was going through from first-hand experience. Through the conversations with these people, I began finding more support for myself. Because of these experiences with these 3 staff, they became more than just my favorite counselors. They became rocks and grounding forces. A few months ago, I received the news that neither Holmes nor Xylo would be returning this summer, and I cried. I didn't cry simply because I was losing staff, but because I was losing friends, people who helped me find out who I really am. I still have Splash, and she will be graduating me from my CIT2 to my staff, which is one of the biggest moments of my camp career, and she will continue to be there for me. As someone who feels like I have such little support in my day-to-day life, losing 2 of these most influential people has left a giant hole in my life. But I'm going to embrace this. Not the sadness, not the negative feelings, but the feeling of support that I did receive. And I want to help give that to other people. I'm telling you this because everybody deserves to have people like Holmes and Xylo in their lives. Maybe this is your best friend, your physics teacher, or just a random adult in your life from a sport. It doesn't matter who this is in your life, but everybody needs them. Hopefully hearing this experience of mine reminds you that there are places in this world, real, beautiful places, where people don't just tolerate you, they care about you and celebrate your true colors. These places just aren't camps or special events. They can be schools, homes, conversations with friends, and a community of any kind. We just have to make these spaces this way, especially when they're being ripped out from under our feet. Pride isn't just about raising rainbow flags or having parades. It's about creating a world where everybody feels safe expressing their true identity. It's about listening to one another, supporting each other, and showing up for everyone when we need it. That includes giving yourself the time and care you deserve. So today, as we celebrate, I would like to celebrate. Thank you to those who are here, still trying to figure out who you are. And even if you aren't, or you know who you are, thank you. Thank you to the allies who are here, who care, who are learning alongside us. At the end of the day, Pride is about love. Not just loving each other, but ourselves. Everyone deserves to feel loved unconditionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Next up is Framingham from the Framingham High School class of 2025.
Good afternoon, everyone! Oh, you guys can be loud on that. Good afternoon! It's a beautiful June 1st and a beautiful first day of Pride. I'm Topher McGarry, my pronouns are he, they, and I am now a former officer of the FHS GSA. Today I want to share a poem I wrote at approximately 11 o'clock this morning. This is aptly prideful. Today is the day that I find power in the words I never felt I could write. I am proud of myself. I look me in my tired eye, a peaceful cavity, to a constant storm defying gravity, a witch and a broom, a bride and a groom, and I know that the latter could never be for me. The former never being feasible, the day never seizable, all the DMs we could have carpeed, those chances aren't over yet, are they? It's just that we've been desensitized, news headlines memorized. We clean our hands until they're fully sanitized. We clean ourselves until we feel completely baptized. Meanwhile, they clean up ethnicities, all colonized, and making a statement too bold is deemed to be unadvised. Well, today is the day that I find power in the words I write. Today is the day I find pride in the way that I fight. The individual's obligation to care is now alight, burning old plantations, Eurocentric beliefs now on fire bright. We fire away and ask ourselves, I am proud of myself? Do we pledge allegiance to ourselves tonight? Time spent putting our hands over our hearts, but I don't want to cover mine anymore. Even if it's with a hand that's helped carry others before. I'd rather offer $1 to a man at the Dunkin' down the street. I'd sooner write a tall order of demands to those in Congress's seats. I'd use these hands to pray, and then I'd use these fists to beat back all the rules that say specific others' hands can't be free. I see myself in the mirror, a white, Christian, bisexual, and transgender man. And although I've gone through years of healing to accept myself, it's only once I give back this wealth that I can flip the bird, flip the witch on a broomstick to Uncle Sam and say, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of who I've become. I'm proud of who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Topher. And next up, we have Reese Davies from the Framingham High class of 2025.
Right. Hello. I can move this. Hi, my name is Reese Davies, and this is my 4th and final year as an officer for the Framingham High School GSA. The last time I talked to you was during my sophomore year, and I talked to you as a treasurer, and I'm talking to you now as one of 2 technically retired co-presidents. I feel like every year I come up here, I say something along the lines of, well, it's been an interesting year, and every time that somehow becomes more and more applicable, and the word interesting becomes more and more of an understatement. And I won't sugarcoat it. The United States, as of right now, is an objectively dangerous place to be trans or queer. In 2023, when I last spoke, there have been over 500 bills proposed across the nation to limit the rights and freedoms of trans Americans. And if I were to say that that number had doubled, I'm sure I would be lowballing it. It's dangerous, and it has been dangerous for years now. I think those of us who are old enough to remember 2016 can say that a lot changed with that election. Every time I've left the house to go to a Pride event, my father has expressed worry and told me to be careful. I am all he has left, after all. As a Black person, America has never been a particularly safe place for me, and I'm sure any BIPOC or just people of color in the audience can understand and agree. Limited freedoms, learning to keep a low profile, and a pretty rational distrust of the government come free with the package of being a Black American. But the last 9 years have not surprised me, and they have not surprised my family, and any otherly marginalized queer person, whether you're black, brown, disabled, or low income, is probably also deeply unsurprised with this turn of events. And I say all of these things not to bring the mood down, my bad, but I say it in part to remind you all that we persist. Regardless or despite, we persist. On April 9th, a bill was proposed and engrossed in Massachusetts to prohibit trans women from participating in women's sports teams. On April 10th, a half dozen queer high schoolers played Uno at a lab table during GSA and laughed, not because we were unaware, but rather despite and regardless. January 16th, a bill was proposed to prohibit elementary schoolers from learning about gender or sexuality. January 17th, we had our, sixth presentation of the year as educating GSA attendees about queer history. I worry a lot sometimes for the queer kids who are too young to have ever known what queer spaces looked like before 2016, before fear became a given bonus of our identity. But I know so many queer kids, and I can tell you all that it has not ruined their ability to trust. It has not scared off their ability to love. And I can tell you with confidence that the kids are all right. And I believe that we will be too. Not because things will magically get better in the blink of an eye, but regardless and despite, we will keep moving forward because we live for the chance to be and see something better. At the end of the day, I think we are brought together not only by identity, unity, and celebration and joy, but for one shared value that I have never thought of as being anything less than healing, a hope for tomorrow. Because no one else did, I want to thank Mr. Lito, who has been our GSA teacher advisor for the last 2 years. Lovely physics teacher, the physics teacher that Ray mentioned. Thank you so much for allowing us to use your space as an opportunity to help queer kids feel safe in an environment. I know that you have been a teacher that so many students have turned to, and you are just a light in the school for so many queer kids. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank my other GSA officers, my co-president Topher, and the incoming officers, Rain, who you previously heard of, and Raven, who is also here. Hello, our youngest incoming officer. And I'd like to thank you all for listening. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Can we get one more round of applause for our high school students and all of our students? Thank you to all of our speakers today. Thank you to all of you for being here. As our speakers reminded us this afternoon, we have so much to celebrate as an LGBTQ+ community. We also have so much to remember from our LGBTQ+ ancestors and a reminder of why the first Pride was a riot. We're also reminded of the rise of anti-LGBTQ sentiment and harm across the nation, and know that those who are most marginalized within the LGBTQ community are also at most risk of harm. So I'm grateful to be here with so many people who have come out today to gather and to celebrate. It's great to be with so many people, and I'm reminded of how much it is as we see this rise in anti-LGBTQ sentiment. I'm reminded of the increased need for community collaboration, and so there are so many of us today. I'm reminded that we are stronger together. We are stronger as a community. And speaking of being stronger together, I'm going to invite up Kaden and our 3 Framingham High students. It's windy, so raising this flag is going to be a little bit tough. I hope you're ready. I hope you're flexing your muscles, and we're going to raise up this flag.